2018 Yu-Gi-Oh! Is almost finished, and man, what a year. Time flies when you're getting FTK'd by Firewall Dragon, and in today's video, I'm going to go back and watch a video that I made on January 1st, 2018, where I did my 2018 Yu-Gi-Oh! Wishlist. These were the things that I wanted to see happen in that year of Yu-Gi-Oh! And it should be mentioned that this is sort of coming off of, it was right after Spiral format, which was coming off of Zodiac format, so I had some thoughts about what I wanted to see from 2018 Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm not sure how many of them were actually met or not met, but in today's video we're going to kind of go through and see what I predicted, see what I asked for, and then actually talk about if they happened or not. I don't want to be one of those people that says at the end of every single year that this was the worst year in Yu-Gi-Oh's history, but I wasn't a huge fan of 2017. It certainly had poor
Oh,
its high 2017
points,
Doug. He doesn't know what's going to
overall, it
happen
had
in
a ton of different low
2018.
points, and I'm really excited. So first of all, I think we really need another Battles of Legend set. Holy crap, that was like one of the most hype sets of the whole year, and it wasn't a main set, and it was just sort of this, it was basically a better version of Gold Series. It had the reprints, it had the new cards, and it had so many valuable reprints. They weren't just reprints for the sake of reprinting things, they were so valuable, and cards like Cyframe Lord Omega and Crystal Wing Synchro.
Okay, so we did get another Battles of Legend, and it was very good. I don't know if I would say that it was better than the original Battles of Legend. The new one took a little bit different approach, and I think that's why it makes it a little worse. I liked it a lot because one of the things that they did was they Rarity upgraded a lot of cards, things like Eater of Millions and Unizombie, and there were some cool reprints, things like Solemn Strike and Monster Reborn, and like Gamma Seal and Secret Rare looks great. But in general, the difference between the two Battles of Legends is that the original Battles of Legend sort of reprinted expensive cards, where the newer Battles of Legend, even though it did have some reprints of expensive cards, things like Solemn Strike, in general, I felt, at least from someone that wanted to buy that set, that I was buying it to get upgrades for cards that only had common or rare printings. I will say that both of them are still fantastic sets, and I have high hopes for the next year, where we hopefully get another Battles of Legend, maybe even like Link Frain's support if we don't get that stuff by the end of, we'll talk about that when I do a 2019 wishlist video. But in general, I hope that we have another Battles of Legend that is just as good as the last two, because both of them are fantastic products.
We really should have an official online simulator. Now, a lot of people have their own ideas about this, but holy crap, like, Dueling Book sucks. It's way too slow, a lot of issues. Because with
I'll just stop the 2018 Dzeeff there. It didn't happen. It's never going to happen. At the very least, though, I did make an entire video talking about why I dislike each of the online platforms for Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now. One thing that I didn't talk about in this video that I later found out is that the duel links, like setup, the actual dueling part of it is perfect. That's everything that I would want out of a Yu-Gi-Oh! Game. It's streamlined, it's fast, it looks nice, looks a lot nicer, and plays a lot better than any of the other sort of online dueling platforms. Obviously, it's an official thing, and Konami's actually making money, where like things like Dueling Book sort of organized off of just donations. I don't think this is ever going to happen. Duel Links has taken off. I mean, obviously it's big on my channel now, which is kind of funny, but just in general, Konami is making so much money on Duel Links. They really have no incentive from a business standpoint to actually make an official online platform. I will say what's interesting is that looking at this video, I realized that the online platforms haven't really improved. Dueling Book hasn't gotten any better. I mean, the custom card thing is cool, but I mean, how Dueling Book and Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro and Dub Pro and all those things look like in almost 2019 now, it's exactly the same as they looked like a year ago, and even a couple of years before that. I mean, is there a huge difference between 2019 Dueling Book and like 2014 Dueling Network? Not really, and it's pretty crazy, but I think at this point I've just kind of given up hope on any online platform that's official from Konami that's as polished as Duel Links.
I really hope there's no sort of tier 0 format in 2018. Many of you might think that there's a tier 0 format every single year. That is simply not the case.
Oh man.
It's really only happens every couple years, but in 2017 we had two different sort of months where there was only one top deck. Obviously you had the Zodiacs with Norden, They had that from the beginning, but it was pretty much right after Rapier got semi-limited that people started realizing that you have to play the Norden combo with Luna Lights. So that was ridiculous. You basically couldn't win with anything else. And then also Spirals at YCS Dallas and the YCS that was after that the next weekend. For those 2 months, we had 2 different formats where only one deck was playable, basically. Otherwise, like a really teched out deck to beat that one deck. And that's not fun. I like the format we're in right now where there's like, yes, there's a best deck, but there's a lot of other playable decks. Very similar to the WCQ. Yes, Zodiacs were good, but you could play like True Draco Zodiacs. You just play True Draco Demise. You can play Dinosaurs. You can play all sorts of stuff, even though Zodiacs were like the best deck. Because there has to be a best deck, but I hate it when it's...
Okay, I'll stop myself there. Obviously, this didn't end up happening. There have been, I don't know, I guess it's hard to say if there's been like a tier 0 format, because right now Skystrikers are incredibly popular and powerful, but I don't think I'd call it tier 0. I mean, it only is taking like a third of the tops at the last YCS Milan. Just in general, though, I mean, did we have an actual tier 0 format? It's hard to say. Things like Pendulums, which is, I think, what was popular at the time that this video was made, were very strong, but you could play other things, and things like Danger FTK ended up kind of flopping after 2 YCSs of a lot of success. Goki is probably the closest to like a tier 0 format we've had, but if anything, it's more similar to like Dragon Wheeler and Spellbooks. Can you have 2 tier 0 decks, or does the definition of tier 0 sort of imply that there's only one deck that you can play? Because I feel like every single time you've been able to play Gokis at tournaments, even when they were at like their full power before Goblin was banned, obviously the deck was extremely popular, but Skystrikers and Trickstar Skystrikers were still being played as well. But I'd say that the Goki format is the closest thing to tier 0 that we ever had. What's interesting about this past year that I've kind of been thinking about as I was doing this video, or was preparing for this video, was that even though we haven't had a tier 0 format, at least in my opinion we haven't, it feels like there's a couple tier 0 cards. You know what I'm saying? Like, it felt like Firewall Dragon in particular was like a tier 0 card where like you had to play it every single format unless you wanted to lose. So I'm glad Firewall Dragon's gone. I would say in general, even though we didn't have any tier 0 formats this past year, that this past year was one of the worst years of competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Just in general, I felt that every single format there was like some degenerate thing happening, which a lot of times we don't get. So hopefully, I mean, I'm sounding exactly like myself in this video, but it's like, now that 2017, I mean, a lot of people liked Zodiac format, a lot of people disliked it, but overall, I mean, it seems like it's kind of going, I don't know, downhill, but hopefully 2019 can be a little bit healthier. The format right now, like at this moment, it's kind of the same thing with right when I recorded this video, I would say is in a good spot. We have tons of decks that are capable of winning. When Needle Fiber comes out eventually, when Savage Strike happens, whatever they bring in that set, I don't know how much it will stay like perfectly fine, but at least for right now, for like a couple months where there really aren't any events, it is very fun to play in competitive Yu-Gi-Oh!
I know the direction they're going is giving us more and more cards that work with link summoning, but I want cards that don't require it. Sort of the examples that I have for this are both Psyframe Lord Omega and Stardust Dragon. These cards have nothing to do with link summoning. They don't put link monsters on the board. They don't help you put monsters to make link summons happen. But they put themselves in the graveyard or in the banished zone and then bring themselves back.
Yeah, this didn't happen. I had completely forgot that I even mentioned this. This definitely didn't happen. If anything, more so than I ever could have predicted, the decks right now are pretty much only playing Link monsters. It's actually very strange to look at extra decks. You go through like Sky Strikers and Altergeist and any of the Dark Warrior variants, they're pretty much just all Link monsters. I didn't think that would happen so fast, and yet it did. But one of the things that I couldn't have predicted in like January was like the sheer utility of like Link monsters. I don't believe at this point we knew about Nightmares. Maybe they had been revealed in the OCG, but I don't think I personally had read them. But I think I underestimated the sheer utility of Link monsters, and I don't know, it's so weird. Personally, I don't really mind Link summoning anymore. I think I've made that pretty clear in some past videos. I was a huge opponent of the Link summoning mechanic when it first announced, because it ruined a lot of my decks, but I think that at least in nowadays, like many of those decks that I complained about getting hit actually ended up getting Link monsters. The only one that I can think of that still is like really hard to play is like Fluffals would be a lot better if they had like an actual dedicated fight for Link monster. In general though, yeah, I guess I kind of forgot about this. this. There is like a super Vehicleroid card that dodges like the extra monster zone. That's kind of cool. In general, though, I mean, no, everyone's just playing Link monsters and no one really complains anymore.
I want to see better rarity bumps. I've made fun of Konami a couple times on this because, like, why was Unizombie not rarity bumped in, like, the Astro Pack that it was printed in? Why was Volcanic Scattershot not rarity bumped in the Astro Pack it was printed in? Why were, like, a couple really, really bad Paleozoics printed in the last OTS pack? I mean, really, I made a video about this, but the last OTS pack is like a joke. It's terrible on all accounts, except for the Ultimate Rares, which are really good.
Brilliant Fusion, right?
Konami for making Brilliant Fusion and Ultimate Rare. But other than the Ultimate Rares, and other than literally one of the 10 super rares, the whole set's garbage. The commons are okay, but that's not like the...
Okay, so obviously I was a little salty at this point because, man, that last OTS pack when this was recorded was really bad except for the Brilliant Fusion. Yeah, I'd say Konami did a fairly good job at rarity bumping things. The bad news is that they still have not reprinted Paleozoic Olenoids, which is the best Paleozoic monster. It's one that's always been played. At least Canada got a reprint, which is cool, and every single other Paleo monster is in super rare now, or Paleozoic trap. I mean, they're monsters or traps, whatever. Unizombie got a rarity bump, tons of cards, Eater of Millions, all sorts of stuff. Trick Clown, all the Perform Mages got rarity bumps. I don't know if Hat Trigger did, but definitely Damage Juggler and Trick Clown. In general, though, yeah, Konami did a pretty good job at reprinting stuff. We have like Stratos as an Ultimate Rare, which is really cool, and just in general, I felt that the super rares out of the last couple OTS packs have been pretty decent. They're never like perfect on this anymore. There just aren't enough products that are actually reprint sets to actually make this happen. I felt that one of the cool things they did, a lot of people complained about it, but in the sets like what even were that, like Hidden Summoners, where they reprinted like Rivalry and Goes in Match, and then in like the Sky Striker set, Dark Saviors, they had lots of reprints for old cards in there. I think that those sets, Konami is really focusing on making sure that they have good sort of pack filler cards that are reprints of old things. I mean, I'm pretty sure before Print Kids won YCS Milan, that Rivalry and Goes in Match were like the top selling cards of Hidden Summoners, and that was a fantastic set to like print them in. I don't know if it really fit like with the rest of the themes in that set, but those cards needed a reprint, and they finally gave it to us in Super Rare, which is really exciting. One of the things that we didn't have this past year was a Gold Series, and I don't know if we're going to have another Gold Series ever again, because it seems like it's, been like 3 years since we've had one. That's probably for the best, honestly, because I think that one of the things that frustrated a lot of people is that Konami would give the higher rarity bumps to cards in Gold Series, and a lot of people like myself don't like Gold Rares, so they didn't really like count, so to say. So I think that in general, Konami did a much better job in 2018 reprinting cards, or rarity bumping cards at least, than they did in 2017.
And lastly, you all know what it's going to be. I want Fight for Patrick. Konami.
I'll just skip this cringe fest. I put this at the beginning of the video where Fight for Patrick got released. Yeah, we got it. It doesn't make a huge impact, unfortunately. It had like some regional play, like someone almost topped the regional the first weekend that it came out. It's past its prime, as much as I hate to say it, because I love Fluffals. This is a card, this is a deck that would have been good right before Link Summoning came out. Fluffals actually had a fairly decent Zodiac matchup, believe it or not. It's pretty silly. Fright for Sheep in particular is really hard for Zoo to deal with. They can't Trident it, they can't Whiptail it. It's just a really tough card for Zoo to get around. Unfortunately, yeah, it's too little too late. I think that if this deck gets a Link monster, I don't know where it would get a Link monster, because we already have all of Link Reigns Pack 2 revealed. But if this deck gets a Link monster that's actually pretty decent, maybe it could see some play. Unfortunately, though, yeah, it didn't do enough, which sucks, because this deck in general saw a ton of play in the OCG with Patchwork, even in Zoo format for them, just because of what I just mentioned with Fright for Sheep. But in the TCG, not so much. Still one of my favorite decks. It's just not quite as good as I wanted it to be. Anyway, though, that is pretty much going to wrap up today's video. It's pretty funny looking back at what I expected out of 2018 Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm definitely going to do this same style of video again for 2019. We can kind of make this like a yearly routine where we sort of predict or give our wish list expectations for the next year of Yu-Gi-Oh! And then go back and look if they actually came true. In this case, a lot of the things that I wanted actually did come true. A couple of them obviously didn't come true, but in general, I think that if I look back at it, 2018 wasn't the best year for for competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! And hopefully 2019 can turn that around. I think Konami is taking a lot of steps in the right direction to make Yu-Gi-Oh! The best it can be. Hopefully the next ban list, and I'll talk about this in the wishlist video, I'm really hoping that January ban list is like a reset button. I think Sky Strikers, even though they might have not needed to get hit on the last ban list, they're very clearly too powerful at sort of this, it's not full power because they have Hornet Drones at 1, but like almost full power. They're very clearly like way too popular at events. So hopefully Konami gives like a hard reset for many of the earlier Link decks that they revealed. Even Altergeist, which is my favorite deck right now, if that gets hit, just to make sure that other decks don't sort of get pushed down because Altergeists are too overpowering for the other trap decks to actually compete with, that's perfectly fine as long as Konami hits enough things from other popular strategies. Anyway though, I will see you guys later. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.